Hey guys, I'm Joe Griffin. I'm an avid turkey hunter, and today we're going to go over some tips and tricks that I use to find quality turkey hunting land. So the first thing you need to decide, are you going to hunt public land, or are you going to try to gain access onto some private land? So if you decide you're going to hunt public, there's a really easy way to start this journey. Open up your maps. I'm hunting Michigan. Click your map layer that shows all your public land. Get an idea for how much public land you have in that area, and then you can zoom in and kind of dissect each area and decide which is going to be good for turkeys. So a reason to pursue private land versus public is there's a lot less pressure over here than there would be on the public, especially here in Michigan. It's a lot easier to get access to this land right now because there's less turkey hunters than deer hunters and duck hunters. Start that relationship with landowners early on in the season, and this might open into an opportunity for you in the fall to bow hunt, to deer hunt, anything else like that. So how I gain access for private land is I will open up the maps, just like before, but with a different layer. I'll hit landowner boundaries and contact info, find an area that I want to turkey hunt, and I'll click on the landowner. It'll give me an address that I can go knock on his door and shake his hand, or I can search phone records and get a phone number. I can give him a call and say, hey, is anyone turkey hunting your property? Have you thought about having a hunter come on your land before? And just kind of get to know him a little bit before you go and ask for access to the land. So now that we know how to find both these types of land, here's some features that I look for to determine if this land's even gonna be good for turkey hunting before I get there. So one thing I like to look for when I'm scouting for turkeys is rivers and waterways, the backside of a lake, some old growth along the side of a river. A lot of old growth takes place on the steep banks of a river bottom. 9 times out of 10 you're gonna find birds roosting there. So if I'm looking at this hunt area right here, there's a high ridge right here, right on the banks of this river. If I go in here and find some old growth, I'd be willing to bet that I'd find a tree that there was birds roosting in. So the next thing that I look for is, what are these turkeys eating? And in this specific area, there's a ton of options for them. We've got ag fields. There's always, when it rains, turkeys end up in fields. They're gonna find worms pumping up out of these fields when it starts raining. Take a peek on your map when you're scouting and say, how much ag is around here versus how much white oaks are here for acorns, or how much is gonna be budding up in this area. Cool thing about turkeys is they can really eat anything. It's nice to have options for them though. So this area in particular kind of has everything. It's got waterway with ridges. It's got some old growth. It's got ag fields all the way around it. I'd be willing to bet that there's a pile of turkeys living in this block. The only way you can know for sure is by putting some boots on the ground, but this is a great way to start. One unique thing about turkeys though is you really can't count any areas out. They're a unique animal in that they can live in almost any circumstance, whether it's roosting on a power line down south or living in someone's backyard and feeding on bird feeders in a subdivision. Just because you have a 10-acre chunk of woods that doesn't look great on the map, it's still worth 5 minutes walking through it and checking it out for tracks. So now that I found a good hunting property and I've gone through all the characteristics that are good for turkey hunting, I'm gonna try to find the roost. I'm gonna change the map type to USGS topo, and that's gonna give me all my elevation lines. Typically turkeys like to be up high when they roost, so being on a ridge or on a riverbank somewhere up high is going to be where I start to look for these birds. So I know from the satellite map there's a lot of old growth here. You can see it in kind of the coloration of the map. There's more openness up on this top here, and it aligns with what we're seeing on the topographical map too. Turkeys like to be up high when they roost. They like a little bit more open old growth tree, and that's exactly what we're seeing here on this ridge. This is a perfect little peninsula here for these birds to roost on. They can come up out of the ag fields, they can be up high, they can see everything that they're looking at in the morning before they fly down. So I'd be willing to bet this is a perfect roost spot. So now that we've got an idea of where these birds are roosting, we're gonna verify this now by putting boots on the ground. And I'm not gonna do this first thing in the morning or last thing at light. Most of the time do this from afar by listening for cackles or for gobbles as they fly down in the morning. But I'm not gonna step foot in here other than midday when I know these birds aren't gonna be by the roost. You don't need to be underneath the birds when you're scouting for a roost. If you get in there while they're in the tree, you're gonna bump them and you're gonna basically ruin that roost location. They're gonna go somewhere else, and now you got to scout all over again. So what I'm going to look for when I get there is droppings, flight feathers that have fallen off as they go up into the tree. They're a pretty clumsy animal, to be honest with you. Also old growth that has a lot of horizontal branches for these birds to sleep on. So now that we've talked about the 2 different types of hunting land for turkeys, attributes that we're looking for in a property that makes property good for turkeys, get after it. Put a bird to bed and kill them in the morning. If you want to follow me on my season, I'm Joe M. Griffin on Instagram, and good luck this year.